mom and pop real estate investor that's doing the shotgun approach and just buying a list of absentee owners and sending a letter to everybody. Do you have any idea on what your conversion or open rate is compared to, because the national average is less than one half of 1%,
hmm
um,
hmm hmm
from what I understand.
I would like to take a 10-minute break and then three, two, one.
How do you have the ability to analyze stocks? Welcome to the Generations of Wealth podcast. I am your host, Derek Dombeck, and today's show it's talking about stuff that I am not super familiar with, and that's AI specific to real estate investing and marketing, direct mail, how to use AI to segment lists and just get a much more targeted marketing effort that's going to help you convert better. And you know, before I bring Jason on, our guest, one of the things that I actually talked to him about after we were done recording this episode is building a network. And I want to touch on this because when I get done interviewing somebody, oftentimes we will sit and chat for quite a long time. And quite frankly, that's when I get to build my network. And I want to be able to expand that network to you. Okay. Um, I do my own real estate deals. I raise money for my deals. I help other people with their deals. We do, joint ventures or coaching or whatever, right? The whole point is you need somebody to turn to when you have those questions or you need those connections. That's what I'm here for. So if you need something I can help you with, please reach out. DerekDombeck.com, thegenerationsofwealth.com, and don't hesitate. Let me help connect you. If you're interested in seeing what I do or you want to partner up with me or invest in something I've got going on, reach out. So with that, let's bring on our guest. And here he is, our very, very special guest from the Midwest originally, now lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. Mr. Jason Macht, thank you so much for being on the Generations of Wealth show.
You got it. Thanks for having me.
Jason, we were jamming a little bit before the recording started and just talking about kind of our upbringing and all the Midwest values and things like that. But why don't you just kind of fill in and tell the audience about yourself?
Sure. Yeah, grew up in Metro Detroit area and back in Michigan. Went to the University of Michigan, studied engineering, and spent most of my career sort of in product management, running teams of engineers. And somewhere along the way, fell into real estate. So, you know, typical path, I think, for most people, rich dad, poor dad, playing the cash flow game growing up, that kind of thing. And so, fast forward a number of years, I landed in Chicago, and that was kind of where I started, building my real estate portfolio. As I mentioned when we were chatting, bought my first like true investment property actually in the Milwaukee area, and then starting in like 2020, I started buying multifamilies in the Chicago area. So yeah, now fast forward even beyond that, left the W-2 and now I run my own business, kind of catering to bring technology to real estate investors. So I work with a lot of fix and flippers and wholesalers and actively in sort of the real estate space.
Yeah, we're definitely going to dive into that very, very deep. I love having people from different experience levels, meaning not how many deals you've done, but length of time, right? Because you mentioned you started just before COVID. Um, I started in 2003, so we've been through different market cycles, right?
For sure.
Um, what was your, before we get into the AI and all the stuff that you specialize in, what was your, I guess, thoughts into getting to multifamily instead of single family or being a smaller landlord or a house flipper, all the things where a lot of people do start. What made you jump into multis?
For sure. So my actual first property was 2010. And so I lived in that, but that was, it was actually, it became sort of like a burr before I knew what burr was. And so that was like right as I was leaving school. And I kind of went into it with like an investor mindset. So I actually got roommates, lived there, fixed it up. And then fast forward, like I ended up turning that into an investment property after I moved to Chicago. Um, And that worked out really well for a number of years. And at one point, I was always sort of chasing entrepreneurial pursuits. But
Mhm.
at one point, I had paused and like, oh, this property is actually doing really well. Maybe I should just like figure that out. And so that's when I started taking it seriously, probably in like 2017, 2018. And to come back to your question on why multifamilies, I read a book. I'm trying to remember. It's on my shelf back here somewhere. I'm sure of it. It's like maybe like Millionaire Real Estate Investor. And they talk about scaling in units effectively as opposed to like roofs. And so that kind of stuck with me. I was like, okay, I bought the single property that I lived in. I was like, okay, I could keep doing that, but like the incremental lift to do each of those investments seemed like a heavy lift. I was like, okay, if I could scale in units and go about it that way, that seemed more efficient to me. That was like kind of like the engineering mindset, I guess. And I kind of got wrapped up in like bigger pockets and some of their tactics and strategies. And so yeah, that led to buying a 4 unit in Milwaukee. And then I was just always trying to figure out like how do I scale? And then I went to a 4 unit in Chicago, and then a 6 unit, and then a 9 unit. Started raising money, and then kind of snowballed from there.
Perfect. And then you moved to North Carolina. So did you keep the multis back in the Midwest?
Yes, I still have them. And yeah, I manage them from afar. So,
Okay.
I kind of borrowed from again some like bigger pockets, like, hire the team, manage out of state, hire a property manager. The way it looks for me right now is I hired a VA that basically handles the tenant communications. We at our peak we had 4 Airbnbs, but now I think we're just down to one. So she handles like the bookings and the communications across like the long-term tenants and the short-term. And then I have like an in-market handyman that's like, our go-to guy we rely on for everything. And then we, from there, basically outsource any of the trades. So we have like our go-to masonry guy, we have our HVAC guy, plumbing guys. So that's kind of how we've been able to manage it. So we have 20 units there currently.
Okay. Well, let's segue into what you're fairly passionate about, and that's data and using AI and all the things for marketing. Why don't you give us the baby steps into that, and then obviously we're gonna dive deep.
For sure. So yeah, as I mentioned, like my background's in engineering. That's what I went to school for. Spent most of my career in product management. I was working at a fintech company back in Chicago. We were building, my team built a credit card product we were issuing across the US. So very different than what I do now. It just so happened that after we built and launched that, we had to scale it. And one of the ways we scaled it was affiliates and then direct mail. And so I learned from like the ground up how to build a direct mail program at scale, leveraging data to do that in a very sophisticated manner. So, even before AI was hot, like we were building machine learning models to do segmentation. The benefits of being in the financial space, you can actually get someone's credit report. You have hundreds, if not thousands, of attributes that you can build a model around, and then you can essentially use that to target people in terms of who's going to respond. And so there's a whole process around that. But so that resulted in us doing, we were sending probably 3 to 4 million letters a month just to issue credit cards, right?
Did you say
So
3 to 4 million letters a
yes,
month? I
yes,
just wanted to clarify that number. Okay.
yes, yeah. So large scale. And so fast forward, I through my investing pursuits, I met some investors and had the opportunity to go work with them, and they're essentially running a wholesale operation where it's direct to seller, right? Direct mail is very popular in marketing when you're trying to buy off market homes, and they said, hey, can you help us do this for our business? Said, yeah, I think I can help solve that problem. And yeah, fundamentally, it's a data problem. It's targeting, it's segmentation. It's a little bit of marketing, like creative is important. It's a part of the equation. And then I took a very sort of like engineering sort of mindset to it. So everything is API driven, automated, try to remove the operational like overhead that most people run into. And so yeah, that landed me kind of where I'm at today, where we now provide a done with you service around direct mail for real estate investors. And then we also help with people who are interested in leveraging AI and better understanding the data in their business. And yeah, it all kind of ties back to those two starts, engineering married up with interest in real estate.
Okay. So I'm going to put you on a spot. Maybe you know the answer, maybe you don't, but I've done direct mail for decades.
Okay.
And right now I don't do a lot of it.
Okay.
We kind of watch what's converting, what's not converting, and it's kind of proven over the years, like you will get some conversion from direct mail. What do you feel like your conversion rate is with all the data and really kind of honing in on who you're sending to versus the general mom and pop real estate investor that's doing the shotgun approach and just buying a list of absentee owners and sending a letter to everybody? Do you have any idea on what your conversion or open rate is compared to, because the national average is less than one half of 1%,
hmm
um,
hmm hmm
from what I understand.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably about right. So it depends on a number of factors. I'll try to not prolong this answer though. Yeah, at scale, typically what we see is you're probably at like 30 or 40 basis points, which is like gross response. And so that's like your open rate, right? Where they essentially will call in and respond. But I say that at scale. So that's when people are doing like 50,000 pieces a month. I think when you're niche down and if you're just doing, um, call it pre-foreclosure, probates, some of like the higher distress lists, like you could see, 60, 70, maybe as high as 1% response rates, depending on it. So I would say anywhere in that range. I like to be at least 30 to 20 to 30 basis points gross, and then usually see about half of that net out. So net
Mhm.
response would be like a qualified lead. So you need to be, I would say, at a minimum above 10 basis points for it to be a profitable campaign. From there, it really just depends on the funnel. It depends on, what the economics of that lead are in terms of if you're doing wholesale, it's usually, the spread on the assignment fee, or if you're doing fix and flip, it's going to be your, average rental output. And that'll actually answer the question of ROAS. So generally speaking, we're trying to target like 3, 4x return on ad spend.
Right.
Some of my best clients have done 15, but they're getting like 80K a deal. So
Right.
it just really depends on the full funnel.
Right. So I guess maybe dive into how is AI helping you with this today, and what does AI do for you? Because when you started the previous business venture with the credit card stuff, you mentioned that was kind of pre-AI, or as AI was just coming on. How's that changed now?
Yeah, I think it depends where and how you're using it. And I think that's probably the biggest misconception with AI is like it's just another tool.
Hmm.
It's not a silver bullet. And when we talk about AI in the context of direct mail, it's less about it's not as if the AI is like finding some uncanny insights about the data. The way we use it is it helps us in the like actual execution, and it also helps us in like the insights. And what I mean by that is, we integrate it at every sort of phase of the campaigns that we execute. So when you're doing lists and segmentation, largely it all still correlates to the segments, the distresses, the motivations that you have, right? Then you can also still use things like machine learning or like propensity scores, and so that has evolved. So a lot of data providers will actually provide that, so you don't actually need like new AI to do that. What's helpful though is like using AI in the content generation. So like one of the things that we do, for example, is we will essentially like aggregate all of the like research, like the market research on what tends to perform the best, and then use that to essentially build out a content strategy that we can then like test and iterate on. So it's really helpful in like moving faster, incorporating and synthesizing more data and like the decisions that you're making, and then using that to like map out the strategy. But at the end of the day, you still need to continually test. And so like every market will respond different. Every segment of customers will respond different. So you have to have sort of this like practice of always testing as a part of it. And then I think the last piece is really around like the data and insights side of it. So that is actually where AI is really good. So to the extent you track everything, both on like the campaign and the mail side, as well as the CRM side. You can actually use AI to marry up that data, centralize it in a single location, a data warehouse, table, Postgres, whatever you're using, and then you can actually use the AI to to talk to the data because SQL is a fundamentally like the way the data is related. And it's a really powerful tool to like extract insights and actually build the reporting that you would need, then ask it questions of like, hey, what's the best performing segment in this period of time? What's the worst performing, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's really valuable when it comes to direct mail or anything you're doing in the business in terms of making a decision on the campaigns or like where to spend time or like what to kill, what to double down on, those kinds of things. And so that's where we see the use of AI really really powerful in the marketing like direct mail context. There's of course a ton of other
Sure.
opportunities as well.
Yeah. So you do this as a business, like specifically, how does that work? If I was your client, what would that look like? What do I need to do? What do you do?
Yeah, so we essentially have like two service offerings that we provide. On the direct mail side, it's like a done with you model. So we a lot of clients will bring their own data if they already have a data provider. Otherwise, we help procure that, and then we'll actually help build out the buy box and the segmentation. And then we essentially have a pre-built campaign automation flow that we provide. We give the best performing creatives that we have, and then we build all the reporting around it, and then we help manage the volume on a go forward basis. And so usually we're working with our clients for 6, 12 months and continuing iterating and driving response out of the campaigns. And then the second one is more AI like integration consulting. And so a lot of people know of this thing AI out there, don't quite know how to integrate it into their business or where to use it or how to use it. And so drawing from again my engineering background, also prior consultant, I kind of come in, look at the tech stack of what people are doing, and then try to provide guidance on, hey, either this is like we just need to get these systems talking to each other, and here's how we can do that. Or there are cases where we can leverage AI to drive value to the business. A couple examples might be like call insights. So, for example, many people have sales teams. They train those sales teams. They want to understand how well is the sales team actually doing on the phone. Most teams will sample a couple calls and then they try to iterate and train on that. Well, with AI, you can actually monitor everything and score everything and extract insights from all of them at scale, and then just surface up the ones that are the most impactful in terms of really like three dimensions. One is providing training or coaching directly back to the agent, just from like a self-improvement perspective. Two is just extracting data out of the calls. I think everybody struggles with it, getting their team to like update information in the CRM. Well, AI is really good at getting structured data out of unstructured content. And so you can integrate that directly into the CRM and actually programmatically create leads, that kind of thing. And then the third is really around like missed money opportunities is what I like to call it. So, maybe where the team dropped the ball or they failed to highlight something as they're going through the discussion and try to surface that up to like the management team. So that's one sort of example of like where we see ourselves sort of applying AI within a business to help teams get better insights.
Well, you're talking to a very non-techie guy, very non-analytical, definitely not an engineer brain at all. I'm the ready, fire, aim person. So I've always
Sure.
had to rely on, my staff or third-party services to do that type of stuff. And I know there's some listeners out there that right now are like everything you're saying, we're like, that sounds awesome. I don't know where to even start. Number one, I don't know what that's going to cost. I don't know if it's actually going to work, right? The pessimism comes out because we
For
don't know how to
sure.
control it. And we are entrepreneurs, which means generally we're control freaks. Um,
For
so
sure.
so there is a question coming out here.
Okay.
If I know nothing, I mean, I don't even know how to spell AI, where do I start? Right? Um,
Yes.
because it's intimidating. I'll tell you, I bought my first properties from a newspaper ad, in
Yes.
2003, and now 23 years later, I have an AI agent named Simone that takes all of our inbound calls when we can't answer them live, right? And all these different things. It's
Amazing.
crazy, but yet we have to evolve
Yeah.
or we're gonna die, you know. So where how do you get over that with a new client or just somebody you're talking to, mentoring, whatever it is? Um, where do they start?
Yeah, generally my recommendation is to try to approach things with a mindset of curiosity and just to like play, like experiment, right? And so that's where I tell people to start. There's a lot of noise out there. I think most people are probably familiar with like ChatGPT.
Mhm.
Um, Claude, Anthropic has become much more popular. Google, everybody knows. Gemini, that's their model. Those are like the big three. And so like I generally just encourage people to like play with those things to get a feel of like what they're capable of, what they can do. Um, and then also just try to absorb as much information as possible. I'm often on YouTube just researching and trying to learn like what people are doing or playing with, or just like seeing how other people are doing it. You can sort of learn through osmosis that way.
Mhm.
But I think just having an open mind of like curiosity and play, I think that helps overcome sort of maybe the overwhelm that comes with like new technology or feeling like at a loss because you don't fully understand it. I think if you approach it with just like, hey, I'm playing, I'm experimenting, let's see what it can do, is really helpful. And so, even in the example that we talked about around like call scoring, right? Call insights. That's like a very easy use case that someone could just like try, right? Like you could just export a call from your team or whatever, import it into or upload it or paste it into one of these models and then start to talk to it. Say, hey, can you build a report on this or tell me what are the top three insights from this call? And that's, I think, one of the really powerful things with, where AI is at is it sort of shortcuts this ability to test and iterate. And so like almost anybody can do that. And then you'll be amazed, like you'll talk to it and then it'll build you an entire web page of like, the stats and like charts and graphs for like that particular call. Like, and that's I think where the power comes. You start to see like, wow, this is really cool. Then of course, I think that once the imagination is sort of sparked, then that kind of opens the door, and you're like, oh, I see, I get it now. And then from there, it's like, okay, how do I actually make this? How do I integrate this into the business, make it robust and reliable? And that's at the stage where maybe look to hire somebody or whatever's going to be the fit for your business. But that's usually what I recommend in terms of getting started. Just play.
Yeah, for sure. And you can get sucked down different rabbit holes very, very
Yes.
easily for
There's a
sure.
lot of them. Yeah.
Yeah, there is. I was talking with a gentleman who this was a few months back, but they're working on building out a model where the entire thing from the marketing, whether it's direct mail, social media, whatever, right? The inbound lead comes in, it's an AI agent that has the conversation with the seller. They essentially make the offer. Everything is AI right up until the closing. And then they're wholesaling, so they're doing virtual wholesaling and disposition is handled very much by AI as well on finding the end buyer from their buyers list. Like when he was describing this to me, yes, it's very intriguing. It's also like, holy shit, it's a little scary that the entire thing could be run by AI. And there's always going to be some human need, of course, right? Like
Hmm.
AI isn't going to go and sign loan documents or be able to raise the money necessarily. But
Right.
even raising money, I have a friend of mine who's a doctor down in Houston, and he he does syndications for apartment complexes.
Hmm.
His model is set up to where he sends out an email when he's got an offering, and they call in, they get all the information about the offering from AI, and AI schedules an appointment with him if they, want to move forward. It's very set it and forget it. He's only talking to the people that already have 95% of the information they need. So his closing ratio is really high. And I love that model.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think what I would highlight is a lot of people are concerned about, AI taking jobs or like replacing, and kind of like what you highlighted, is it's surprising that it's able to, replace so much of the workflow. I look at it as more as a shifting of the work, right? And
Mhm.
it's like in your example, the syndicator is able to spend more of his time on like the high value part of the flow, which is, actually closing the revenue, closing the fund, and actually continuing on to like operate the deal. AI is probably not going to operate the deal,
Right.
but all of the sort of paper pushing, or like the laborious parts of like holding webinars and like answering questions, right? Those are the kinds of things that like AI is really good at. Once you just give it all the information, and it can kind of field and deflect some of that workload. So I think it's just like it's an evolution. It's a shifting of you know uh, areas of focus, and kind of I think it alleviates some of the things that were more just like busy work previously, and helps us spend time on things that are more valuable.
Well, I know just one for my personal business that we launched in the last couple of weeks is I like to buy properties creatively, and I like to put lease option buyers, tenant buyers in those properties. But you can imagine how many people contact you when you're advertising that don't have a clue how rent to own works or lease options work, and it's just this constant reiteration of answering the same questions. So up
Yes.
until now, I've always just had usually a 3 to 4 minute voice recording that they call in, they hear the voice recording, and at the end of it, they get instructions on how to actually schedule an appointment with me. But the conversion has gone down. People realize this is a recording, and they hang up. 3 to 5 seconds later, they hang up, right? We're
Okay.
watching the reports. So we built out our AI agent to have those conversations with them and answer all of their typical questions. How does a rent to own work? How much money do I need? Blah, blah, blah. And then she has the ability to put them on my calendar. So literally 15 minutes after you and I get done with this episode today, I have something on my calendar to talk to a rent to own prospect.
Amazing.
Man, that just blew my mind. 2 years ago, who would have thought I could have had that in my business? And that cuts out a lot of my time. I
For
don't have
sure.
to talk to as many people. I only want to talk to the ones that are basically pre-qualified to talk to me,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and I think it's really powerful, and your ability to, in your case, you connected to the calendar where they can book with you. You can also connect it to, your CRM. You can connect it to. I have a client I'm working with. We're going to build a AI voice agent out for property management. I'm trying to do this for myself, also internally, just for 20 units. They have a
Mhm.
couple hundred, but in that spot of just like answering questions around, when's trash day, or hey, submitting a maintenance ticket, or hey, I got locked out, right? You can have that buffer in between where, most people probably don't even necessarily care that they're talking to an AI agent, if they're even aware that it is
Mhm.
AI. They just want the problem solved. And again, it just solves the problem, and you can have it either generate that ticket in the property management platform, or update the CRM, or whatever. And it sort of becomes this like connective tissue that makes things a little bit easier, which I think at the end of the day is better experience on both like owner operator, and as well as like the tenant or the customer, or whoever's on the other side of it.
And they're available 24/7, and they're not an hourly employee that gets sick.
Yes, I think that's actually a huge thing that people probably overlook, is like the off hours gap, and so that's what I end up finding myself solving for a lot of people is um, it's like missed revenue in general. Like a lot of times it doesn't make economic sense to have someone on 24/7, but you can easily slot in one of these voice agents into off hours and weekends.
Mhm.
And that's, another conversation that your team wouldn't have, might not have had. And, usually the data shows that if you don't talk to them that first call or that first inbound, you're probably going to lose them because they're
Yep.
they're going elsewhere for whatever they're looking for. So that's like a huge like value add, low hanging fruit, I think, for most people.
And it's even for somebody low tech like myself, I comprehend it's super easy to set up the call sequence to where if a live person doesn't answer it within the first 3 rings, it's going to go to the AI agent. So we still want to answer the phones live as often as possible, but
Yep.
you're right. You're going to lose that lead the majority of the time, and I hate letting people go to voicemail. It's if even if they're willing to leave a voicemail, now you play voicemail tag back and forth. It's just the data proves that it's not efficient and it doesn't convert. So, well, Jason, I have a really hard question for you that I ask almost every guest, and my regular listeners always look forward to this. What is one question I should have asked you that I did not? And it can be about anything.
One question that you should have asked me that you did not. That's always a tough one. That's always a tough one. Um, Man, I don't know. Someone asked me something like similar to this recently, and it was a lot more along the lines of like, what would surprise me about you that I don't know? So maybe that would be the question. My answer to that one was, I have a very like diverse set of interests, and so I was actually and it's actually sitting right here behind me. I was actually at one point a first chair celloist. And I was also a hockey player, having grown up in Michigan. So I was the jock and then also like the band geek, which is a pretty unusual combo. And so I think that always surprises people. But it's always kind of like lent itself to my curiosities have lent itself to seeking out more information, and that's like lent itself well to solving problems. As eclectic as maybe playing the cello might be, and so yeah, just I think that always surprises people about me.
That's fantastic. And that's why I love that question. And somebody did that to me on a podcast a long time ago as a guest. And so I love that because you just never know where it's going to go. Um, as we kind of wind down, what do you think is in the future for you, your business, and AI or just real estate in general? What do you foresee? You've been in this business for 7, 8 years. You've seen now a little shift in the market. Nobody has a crystal ball, of course, but what's your gut tell you, and what's the focus and direction you want to take it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the future. I'm excited with everything that like AI has to offer. My view specifically in the real estate space is that it's from a technology perspective, it's always been underserved. And I think the thing that AI offers is this ability to create technical products and solutions that don't require like venture-backed funding to like achieve. And so you're now able to build out tooling and platforms for all of these more small and medium-sized markets that just make everything better. And so as a business owner, operator, or investor, like you can build this out internally for your own team, or there's guys like me that can like build these out for clients and provide a service that you wouldn't necessarily otherwise been able to get. So I'm optimistic in terms of where things are going. I'm definitely not an AI doomsdayer. I think there's a lot of value. I think there's a lot of noise in the news. And I think the same goes for real estates. There's always ups and downs. I think 25 was probably hard for a lot of people. Rates shifting around, market shifting around, AI shifting the labor force. But that's sort of life. Things will go up and down. It's inevitable. But overall, I mean, I think this is like one of the best times to be alive. Like there's a lot of cool things going on. We're trying to put data centers in space and talking about, colonizing Mars and the moon. Like, it's just a lot of exciting things to be around. So, I'm optimistic. I'm excited to continue to grow our business, grow our real estate portfolio, and continue to learn about everything new that's coming out and evolving.
Well, I am too, and I honestly I would not have said this probably 5 years ago because I was kind of against change. I don't love change because I'm slow to change typically,
Hmm.
but there was one point I didn't want to have a podcast, and now I'm passionate about the podcast, and I know what that has done to expand my network and allow me to help other people, and change is good and it's important, and in the end, as I said earlier, you either evolve or you die, and that's just been that way for thousands and thousands of years. It's
100%.
inevitable. So,
I think that's right.
Jason, how can people find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Jason Macht, or you can go to either of our two websites. whitespacesolutions.ai, or for the direct mail side, it's remaildirect.com. And or always just email me, Jason at whitespacesolutions.ai.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, again, I appreciate you giving us some of your time and your expertise and your knowledge. And until the next show, everybody, go share this, right? Help expand the Generations of Wealth reach, spread the message. And until then, go live your vision and love your life. See ya.